Hello, everyone. It is the Last Raider, and we're back today. Going to talk a little bit about something that I've said on Twitter a lot of times, and that is that SJWs, if they are a villain in all the fandoms, they are represented by one group of villains, and that is the Borg. And the Borg, if you know anything about them, they go in, they assimilate planets. They have the mantra, "We are the Borg, lower your shields and prepare to be assimilated. Your culture will adapt to service ours, resistance is futile." Well, SJWs are pretty much the same way. You see, the Borg, when they go to a planet, they probe it, they see if it's worth anything to them, and then they move in, they assimilate technology, they assimilate the population, make drones out of them, and pretty much begin to turn that planet, as they said, to service their own system, their own culture. SJWs are the same in that they will enter a fandom and they will look around. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, we should be a part of this," and then before you know it, they're in the terms of comic books, they're lowering the expectations. Like in Western comics right now, the art is getting lower. You're not expected to have good stories anymore. It's all agenda pushed. And what they do is they will go in and they will take over and they'll start arbitrarily putting up rules like Renfamous is right here. And what they want is complete control of the fandom. They want it controlled. As they said, your culture will adapt to service ours. It's not our culture will be a part of yours. It's not we will accept your culture. Your culture will adapt to service ours. And in terms of that, you can see it with, like I said, you can see it with comic books. You can see they're trying to do it with video games, Star Wars, Star Trek, whether it be feminism, gay mafia stuff, and when I say gay mafia stuff, I'm not talking about the gays that are just like, okay, yeah, we're gay, whatever. I'm talking about the people who sit up there and want to, outlaw heterosexual nonsense or outlaw heterosexual relationships entirely. They have pushed support for that. They push false racism as part of their agenda. We've got to divide all these people up into different groups like the Nazis did because we're trying to save them from Nazis. And so you look at it, Star Wars, whatever, or forced diversity, all that stuff will be pushed. You'll see a fandom like Star Wars go from, great space adventures, really good story, to female empowerment, and look at all these different types of humans that are running around. I mean, screw us having good aliens. Look at all these new, look, we've got a black guy here, we got an Asian chick over here, we got all these girls in power, look how bad the men suck. And it changes from being something fun to being a political agenda weapon, just as the Borg do. The Borg's only intent are to spread out and assimilate whatever they can find. And SJWs do the same thing. Also, like the Borg, there are groups of people. If you're watching this video, you probably are one of these individuals. You are what I call the 616. And 616s, like myself, we know what's up. You got Ethan Van Sciver, you have Richard Myers, many others who started this. They adapted, so to speak, if you're going to put it into Star Trek lore, they adapted a 616 gene. And for those of you who don't know, in Star Trek, species 616 is immune to the Borg. For some reason, they cannot be assimilated by the Borg. They're very dangerous, but they can't be assimilated by the Borg. And so the Borg view them as an absolute threat to their existence. And so instead of the Borg trying to, talk and reason, do the human thing, the Borg turn around, look at 616 and say, you have been designated for termination. You look at Myers when he started doing Jawbreakers and doing his thing, he was designated for termination. Ethan Van Sciver designated for termination. That Star Wars girl, she's been designated for termination. The Umbrella guy, he's been designated for termination. I think Hero Hay has. Just about any. Yellow Flash, they've been trying to terminate him. They have designated these people as evil. They are 616s. They are immune to the assimilation practice of the SJW. And when the SJW cannot assimilate you, as I said, they will try to destroy you. They call your job. They try to leave you starving. They won't just eliminate you. They want you starving and watching your family starve. They're also the same type of people that in the gun community. One guy put this up one time, stupid fool. He put up there that he thought that gun owners should be taken out. They should watch their family members get killed with their guns, and then they should be turned loose into the woods while everyone else takes guns and hunts them like animals. They want people to suffer. They think about suffering constantly. If they're not thinking about woke politics and they're not rubbing their nipples and rubbing everything else off to divert to the idea of diversity, they're trying to figure out how to kill everyone in existence. They're highly self-destructive. But as I said, they're very much like the Borg. I mean, if you're going to have a mantra from these people, it would probably be, we are SJWs. Lower your expectations and prepare to be assimilated. Your geek culture will adapt to service ours. Any resistance will be shamed. Any resistance will be shamed. Any resistance will be shamed. And when you stop and you look, I mean, it's amazed me because I stop and I think about all the memes that have come out about SJWs. They're the NPCs. They all act like drones. That's what the Borg are. They act like drones. I mean, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. If you think there's another group that more mirrors them than the Borg do. But I'm telling you, especially with this tweet right here. This was a tweet done by that Star Wars girl. She found someone who was doing Rose Tico cosplay of when I think Rose Tico is going to be a commander in the next Star Wars. And it's a good cosplay. And so she kind of, tagged Ethan Van Sciver and said she found Rose in the elevator. Of course, the joke with Ethan Van Sciver is he's the only guy that likes Rose Tico because he's bought the most Rose Tico dolls and they don't sell. The joke wouldn't have the effect if SJWs would actually go out and buy some Rose Tico. I mean, here's how you do it, folks. You go out there, you buy 10 Rose Ticos a piece, and then you prove Ethan Van Sciver wrong. No, you're not going to do that because, one, SJWs don't believe in capitalism a lot of times. You compare deadbeats, which is what Renfamous has done, to either Jawbreakers or Cyberfrog especially. It's not making near the amount of money it should be making if their content is better. They don't believe in supporting things with $1. That's a capitalist idea. A communistic idea is you should make the book for free, and then they will go get it. But as I said, usually SJWs, if you look at an SJW community, they usually center, like the Borg, around one queen. Ren is one of them. Mars Girl would be another from Kick Vic. Zoe Quinn, Anita Sarkeesian. You start looking at how the Borg are set up, and you see the Borg were a prophecy from Gene Roddenberry. Like, we were looking at that coming like, oh, wow, we should have been more prepared. We're basically Starfleet right now. We have not prepared for war. We're in the middle of, getting all these war machines built in terms of, stuff that can counter their message and fight back and fight for the geekdom again. But we were so behind. We're about like the Federation, except We're the 616s of the universe. We can't be assimilated. Anyone else they can go in, they can shame them into assimilating into everything. I guess like Starfleet and the Klingons would probably be regular pros because and just regular normies because they can be assimilated. They can be shamed into assimilation. That's how they assimilate you. We can't be assimilated because there was a Russian saying to this: "The bear that sees the trap cannot be caught," and that's about what we are. We know what the tactics are. We've seen what they do. We've been on the receiving end of it. A lot of us have. And we don't buy into it. You can shame Ethan Van Sciver. He's not going to change his opinion. You can shame Myers. He's not going to change his opinion. You can shame that Star Wars girl. She's not going to change her opinion. Their assimilation tactic doesn't work. And as I said, when it doesn't work, they seek to destroy it. This is Ren right now. Going in there, putting this up there, she knows what's happening, and she goes, "This is the absolute antithesis of how cosplayers are supposed to treat each other." I don't understand what she's saying, because if this is what she's saying right here, that means that Star Wars girl is being nice to the Rose Tico cosplayer, and they're getting along. If that's the antithesis of cosplay, and she had just said this, it probably wouldn't have been over with. But then she goes over here and completely contradicts herself. We don't want people like you in our hobby or in our community. Mind you, it's not your community, it's our community, because because Star Wars girl is a 616. They can't assimilate her. So she's not part of the culture anymore, because Renfamous and her Borg cube have gone over to cosplay, and they're attempting to assimilate it. As far as they're concerned, the culture is theirs. They didn't build it. They're barely a part of it, but they're going to assimilate it by shaming the planet until everyone assimilates into their Borg collective. The problem is, people like that Star Wars girl have 616 DNA and they can't be assimilated. So now Ren is going to direct all of her Borg NPCs at Ethan Van Sciver and also at that Star Wars girl in an attempt to destroy them. She wants to make life difficult for everyone, so she's directing her entire group into a harassment campaign to do all this stuff. And it's sad. Because if this is how you're going to, be involved in a fandom, I mean, back when I was a kid, if I wanted to be involved I wanted to get involved in World of Warcraft, and guys were like, dude, you have to do X, there are certain things you have to do to get involved in World of Warcraft, especially if you're doing the figurine stuff. They said, 1, you have to have your own figurines. You have to get your own figurines. They said, 2, you have to study up on some of the lore, at least whatever unit you're using, you have to study up the lore of it. Then you also have to know the rules and the regulations that are going on. You also have to know how the hierarchy and everything works. Like, some guys have higher ranks, I think, in some instances. I never got into it because I was like, that's a lot of work. But I went over and I got into Yu-Gi-Oh cards afterward, and I had to learn the mechanics of the game. And it was a learning process. With SJWs, no, it's not a learning process. They come in, your culture submits to theirs, so it'll push an agenda. And then after that, they just rule and they make up arbitrary rules like Ren's making here. This isn't even a written rule, but because she thinks she's taking over cosplay, and her little Borg collective are trying to assimilate it, she thinks she gets to make all the rules. Well, 616s, unite. We should rise up and fight them. I am The Last Raider. If you enjoyed this video and you got something out of it, do hit me with a like and a subscribe. I like seeing you guys hit that thumbs up button. Also, if you disagree or if you want to add something to the conversation, by all means do so. I believe in absolute free speech. I will not reprimand you. If I think you're wrong, I'll try to do it in the nicest way as possible. Also, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe. And keep y'all's heads on the swivel. Stay safe, y'all 616s out there. And I will see you guys next time.